Well, to wrap up our Stewardship Series event here in Miami, Mayor Suarez, fresh off a plane.
Yes.
Miami time is what they call this. So you're on time because you're here.
This is Miami time, of course. We have to show you the quintessential Miami experience by being a few minutes late.
Well, I appreciate and
I just want a cafecito. I just want a cafecito.
That's right. So this is, I guess,
Awesome.
our own cafecito series, if you will.
You got it.
Sal Nuzzo from the James Madison Institute, Wamp from the Millennial Debt Foundation. Mayor, what you've done speaks for itself. Miami's the hottest place in America. And that's not just because it was 88 and humid today, but it's a place where I think in the second quarter, most job creation of any place in America.
Yep.
And when we're here talking about the future of money and the national debt, often this is a question of subtraction. Where can we cut?
Sure.
Where can we find efficiency? I think as a mayor, you may not realize this, you're attacking America's biggest long-term problem in a different way, because we also need to grow the economy in order to pay for the government at a federal level that we've been kind of sold away into. And that's happening in Miami as much as anywhere. You've sold the heck out of your hometown. Just talk about how you've made this such an incredible place for people to come and do business.
Well, a few things. The first thing is we recognize as a city that we're in a competitive environment, just like you are in a business. So when you're in a competitive environment, you have a couple of options. One option is to adapt to the competitive landscape. The world is more dynamic than it's ever been before, and that level of dynamism and disruption is increasing exponentially. So one thing to do is to adapt and make sure that you're ahead of the curve of innovation. The second thing you have to do is you have to prepare yourself as a government, to educate the workforce of the people in your city. So for us, we've taken on those tasks, in a very bullish fashion. And when you talk about millennial debt and you talk about debt and government debt, what's interesting about the city of Miami, and this is something shocking to people who are in federal office, we actually cannot have a deficit. We actually have to balance our budget every single year. So we actually have, hold your breath now, a massive surplus. Okay, we have a—
Don't let that get out.
We have a $165 million surplus. We actually have, not only do we not carry a deficit, we don't even have debt in that sense. And so we're very well positioned as a city to grow. We're very well positioned fiscally so that our citizens know that their tax burden is going to be the minimum level possible. And then we're innovating in ways that could reduce that tax burden even more.
Mayor, when you began, you talked about the Miami moment, and now it's turned into the Miami movement.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the genesis and where you see it going.
The idea of a Miami moment was brought about by a tweet that I made in December 4th of last year, where someone tweeted out, "Hey, what if we bring Silicon Valley to Miami?" And I responded, "How can I help?" And that was such a counter narrative to what we're seeing in urban America, because in urban America, they were increasing taxes, they were defunding their police, there were rampant homelessness issues and crime, and frankly, the leaders of a lot of our urban cities, unfortunately, were pushing out innovators. One of them famously said, "F Elon Musk." Another one, pushed out Amazon in another city. So for us, and for me, who was a son of Cuban immigrants, Cuban exiles that were pushed out of their own country for a communist ideology that we know has never worked in the history of humanity. We believe in capitalism and in the innovative spirit of Americans as a means of growing an economy. And that meant getting involved in the technology sector because, when I see my 3-year-old daughter pick up her, her pacifier and take a selfie, right? I know that the technology is not going anywhere into the next generation.
I spent several years in the early stage venture capital world, and so I've found it really interesting, and I grew up around politics, so the convergence of those two languages I know pretty well.
Yeah.
I've seen you sit with venture capitalists who you're recruiting. You saw not only the opportunity to bring companies in, but to bring capital in.
That's right.
What occurs to me that you've done in the last year plus that is so unconventional in our politics today. Politics normally, at best, reflects what the people want right now.
Yeah,
a lot of times in Washington, it's looking backwards and arguing about what's in the past. You gave people a vision. Here's what my hometown of Miami can be. What spawned the vision? And why crypto? Like, why have you? I mean, this is increasingly being considered maybe the future capital of capital.
Yeah. So I think one reason why was I realized I was an elected official at a very young age. I got elected at 32 years old, and I was a board member, if you will, one of 5 councilmen running a multi-$100 million company with 500,000 shareholders, right? And so for me, I realized that for us to succeed going into the future, we had to create a tech ecosystem. And frankly, there was a tweet put out recently by one of our fastest growing companies, one of the fastest growing companies in America, which is a Miami company. And he said, every company is a tech company, and if they're not, they should be. Well, every city is a tech city, and if they're not, they should be. And so we were reimagining and re-envisioning what an urban city should do to be prosperous. And frankly, we were the David against the Goliath of Silicon Valley. And so for me, I realized that I had to win that battle. When you're the David, you've got to differentiate yourself. And I realized that there was a tremendous opportunity with crypto to use crypto as a differentiating opportunity. And we did that, and we got a tremendous, the Bitcoin conference moved from LA. We had FTX, eToro, blockchain.com move their headquarters here. And then I came up with this concept of the capital of capital, because we were a nexus point between private equity and hedge fund capital and venture capital. And we've in the last 6 months, like you said, we brought $100 billion of assets under management companies to Miami. In the last 5 weeks, we did $475 million in venture capital deals closed, and we started this next period with $86 million B round for 8 Sleep. So, and like you said, we're number 1 in the nation in the last 2 quarters in tech job growth. Number 1 in the nation, but in 29%. So those statistics are born out of an intentionality and frankly, some macro factors that we took advantage of.
The perception is that Florida, and it's a reality even, is that Florida is a very conservatively governed state, one that relies on market principles and tries to, as much as possible, stay out of the way in private market conditions. What can state or federal policymakers, more importantly state, be doing to help turn Miami into not just a Miami movement, but a state movement?
Well, both state and federal can do something very easy that doesn't require any money. And that's, in the case of the state, is pass a crypto-friendly piece of legislation. I introduced it in the last session with 2 great legislators. Unfortunately, it sailed through the House. It got stuck in the Senate at the end. And I hope somebody picks it back up because it was mirrored on the Wyoming law. As we know, Wyoming is the most crypto-friendly state in the nation. That's not something that you should often say, right? And Wyoming shouldn't be beating Florida at anything. No offense to Wyoming, they're great people. But it's an easy piece of deregulation, right? And then I think and federally, the same thing. I mean, I think at the federal level, when you see China shutting down mining, it's a massive opportunity for middle American towns that can convert former manufacturing facilities into, for example, mining facilities. I just saw one today, and it's just incredible to see the reinvigoration of middle America and taking manufacturing and infrastructure jobs from China and bringing them in the tech space, tech manufacturing and infrastructure, to America.
There are a lot of people out there, I think you're aware of this because you're on Twitter, who are saying, man, look at that mayor of Miami. Why does nobody in Washington act like that guy? And in fact, I've seen some people sing your praises on Twitter who don't have a good word to say about a Republican.
Right.
I'm not even sure they know that you got a history right of center. When we talk about these long-term issues, we got kind of 2 paths. We can either always be fighting these political battles for the next election cycle.
Sure.
Or we can, at some point, you and I are both parents of little kids.
Yep.
At some point, we can be serious about stewardship and that next generation. Doubt. How would you, a lot of people wish you were up there, but how would you encourage Washington to lower the temperature so that it's not just about the next election, but it's about doing the right thing long term, which probably means we win the next election?
No, we definitely would win the next election. I think I was blessed to be elected in 2017 by 86%. You don't get elected by 86% if you're alienating people. You get elected by 86% if you're in touch with the people you represent. If you focus on values as opposed to necessarily a partisan approach. And if you focus on solving problems, I think what's absent in today's discourse is a solution orientation, right? There's always this notion that, well, I'm in a party, so I have to defend these things, and I'm in another party, so I have to and it's a constant contrarian concept, as opposed to saying, how are we gonna fix this problem? Just like how do we fix a pothole, or how do we fix crime or homelessness or these other urban issues? So I think that approach, which is a very quintessential mayoral approach, is something that's missing in a lot of partisan politics.
Man, thanks for joining us. It's
got it.
Miami time.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Appreciate it
It's
immensely.
happy hour too.
Yes.
That's right. We appreciate you.
Awesome.